These new records show that Arctic frost was much broader than just an electoral matter. It was expanded to Republican organizations. In total, 92 Republican targets, including one of Charlie Kirk's groups, Turning Point USA.
We're learning more about how former President Biden weaponized his Justice Department against conservatives. Hello, everyone. I'm Joey Jones, along with Tomi Lahren, Kevin Corke, and Kaylee McGee-White, and this is the second hour of the Big Weekend Show. Biden's DOJ launched investigation Arctic frost in April 2022 as part of an election-related case against President Trump. But new documents released by Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley revealed that the FBI expanded its investigation, no surprise, into Charlie Kirk's organization, Turning Point USA. Joining us now is House Judiciary Committee member and California Congressman Darrell Issa. Congressman, first of all, welcome to the show. I'm not asking you about the EOD caucus. That's something that we both play a part in and can talk about later. This is unfortunately much more concerning. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of his predecessor Obama's scandal with the NSA and the IRS, finding ways to attack conservatives that help win elections.
Well, absolutely. This was another weaponization very similar to Lois Lerner. And I will mention that the badge you wear, that crab, is something to be very proud of. And thank you so much for your service and sacrifice. Having said that, we are a target. And it's amazing that that it took this long to fully uncover the fact that, once again, the Obama administration, using Biden, basically did it in the second term.
Congressman Tomi Lahren here. So to Joey's point, there are a number of things, I think a laundry list, a CVS receipt with a number of times I can think of that the federal government has targeted conservatives. I'll say the Biden White House targeted me specifically over a Facebook post about a COVID vaccine saying that I personally wouldn't be getting one. They wanted to change the algorithm to deprioritize comments like mine and many, many others. I'm sure Charlie Kirk was probably also on that list. But it just brings me to this question, as we kind of uncover this and we peel back the layers, much like Elon Musk did with the Twitter files, what else can we learn here to get a little transparency for the American people on exactly what this former government led by Democrats was doing to a whole lot of us, probably even at this table?
Well, it's a combination. I'm glad for the question because, one, we're going to continue to uncover it, and a number of committees will continue to work on it. But this time, unlike Lois Lerner, where we said, oh, well, that's a one-time, it won't happen again for a while, we actually have to put in new laws, ones that fully criminalize this kind of behavior, whether it's done by the Department of Justice and the FBI or the IRS, or, in fact, by pressure on private companies. This is the greatest threat to our democracy, is the making people disappear if you don't like what they say.
Yeah, they've done that so often. Congressman Kevin Corke, great to have you with us as California continues to turn more red by the day. I just want to ask you this. The House actually passed a resolution honoring Charlie, but of course it was met with resistance from Democrats, 58 voting no, 38 voted present. Even another 22 didn't even bother to cast a vote at all. AOC, of course, one of the many no's, and you may have seen this. She attacked Charlie Friday, accusing him of being a bigot. Watch.
The majority proceeded with a resolution that brings great pain to the millions of Americans who endured segregation, Jim Crow, and the legacy of bigotry. His rhetoric and beliefs were ignorant, uneducated, and sought to disenfranchise millions of Americans.
She says he was ignorant. His questions were uneducated. The debate was so important. Meantime, Minnesota Congresswoman Ilhan Omar nearly censured for making similar remarks, as you know. And what's more, she stooped so low as to even attack Charlie's wife, Erica. Listen to this.
Those of you who are interested in rewriting this hateful man's history are full of
These people are full of and it's important for us to call them out.
The reality is that his wife sat by him as he said those things and did not tell him that these are human beings who you are calling garbage, who you are saying they don't have the brain power because they were born in a different skin color.
I would love to see an example of that. I don't believe she can provide that. Now, Congressman, here's a question for you. Should Democrats face consequences for these kinds of remarks? And if so, what kind would you prescribe?
Well, I primarily like the ballot box. Some of
Yeah.
these people are in seats you can't knock out. But I do think that the public is really pushing back. We're seeing it in adverse remarks causing people's ratings to go down on television stations. But I think we're going to see it at the ballot box. I think people are tired of it, but particularly when you take someone who studied the Bible, who studied and went on college campuses and made his argument in a way that convincing with fact and humility, and then you want to call him that after the fact. Charlie Kirk has a legacy, and that legacy is one of the most intelligent people I ever met, one of the most self-taught scholars you'll ever could have met. And quite frankly, I'm thrilled to have Erica and the Turning Point continue to grow as we speak.
Absolutely, and we're looking forward to the memorial service tomorrow. Congressman Kaylee McGee-White, I want to turn to the battle on college campuses. The far left enjoyed an ideological monopoly on them for decades, until Charlie Kirk started changing the hearts and minds of students. Take a look at this.
I'm a transgender male. What age should kids be able to get things like hormone therapy?
I want you to be very cautious putting drugs into your system in the pursuit of changing your body. I actually want to see you be comfortable in how you were born. I think that is something that you can achieve.
Both of my parents have separate political views. Which parent should I lean more towards?
Got it. I would say, Mom and Dad, I don't want to talk politics. I just want to talk the Bible. It's not a political thing. It's a biblical thing.
Well, as a Gen Zer, I know firsthand the impact that Charlie had on so many young adults my age. And it's not at all a surprise to me that far-left educators are lashing out. Randi Weingarten wrote a new book about Trump's so-called fascist takeover of education, for example. And she even got a glowing endorsement from Hillary Clinton. And some liberal professors are even celebrating Charlie Kirk's death. So, Congressman, should Congress hold hearings to hold these educators accountable for sowing division and even encouraging violence, especially considering they receive taxpayer funds to educate our students?
Well, every university in the country except Hillsdale accepts federal funds. And I'm not worried about Hillsdale. So the fact is, President Trump is doing exactly the right thing as he engages with universities to make it clear that they have to change their behavior to be open, transparent, and non-political if they're going to continue to get federal funds. And every single university in a country, sans Hillsdale, wants those federal funds. And I'm thrilled the president's doing it. We have to codify that in the law so the next president can't suddenly use funds to get the left movement going again.
Congressman Issa, Army EOD Tech Issa as well. Thank you for joining us tonight. I appreciate you coming on a Saturday night, and have a good one. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thanks,
sir.
Joey.
It's hard. I want to go to both of you right now because of where that landed, and I know both your background well enough. Kayla, I guess I'll start with you. You know, you went to Hillsdale. He gave a shout out there. But it's this idea that our educational institutions are tied to federal funding. The Democrats would see that as an opportunity, and now Republicans through President Trump are as well. Listen, if you're going to keep indoctrinating our kids, we're just going to cut the money away.
Well, absolutely. These colleges have an obligation to the public. They receive our money, and their obligation is to do education and not indoctrination. And I actually want to touch on one of the other questions as well, the resolution condemning the political assassination of Charlie Kirk and the fact that so many House Democrats were unwilling to vote for it. That was a true mask-off moment. And the mask-off moment is that I think many Americans have realized that the AOCs and the Ilhan Omars of the Democratic Party are no longer the fringe. They are the mainstream. The fact that you had 96 House Democrats unwilling to vote for this resolution shows that this is where the party is headed. That is a very, very concerning thing for this country.
Tommy, you've been known to have an opinion about a thing or two. It's part of who you are.
Yeah.
When we hear that the Biden administration had a named operation in investigating specifically conservative organizations under this guise, I guess, January 6th or some sort of election fraud.
Yeah, is Jack Smith in investigating
exactly
President Trump's, desire to overturn the election? Yes.
Go ahead.
This is really concerning to me, and for a lot of reasons, not just because they were looking into Turning Point, but as I asked the congressman, also our free speech. The left loves free speech now. I didn't hear them crying when all these social media platforms were censoring the Hunter Biden laptop story, when they were censoring us about our discussions about COVID vaccines, lockdowns, shutdowns, mandates. They didn't want us talking about those. They deemed that dangerous misinformation or disinformation. So I want to know all of it. We have an opportunity now, and it's a 4-year-long opportunity to peel back the layers here and see all the layers of censorship, all the targeting, the parents at school board meetings, you name it, that was done under the previous administration. We're good right now, but there's going to be a Democrat in power again. And if you don't think they're going to do it again, I got a bridge to nowhere to sell you.
Kevin, as young as you are, you're old enough to remember the Obama scandals, the NSA, the IRS.
Yeah.
Okay, we move forward from that, and I would say probably the biggest misstep of Democrats is to spend the first Trump term attacking Trump rather than selling their message or refining it.
Exactly right.
And so here we are, we have Republicans investigating what the Biden administration did, obviously something probably very wrong. Mm-hmm. But they can't take their eye off the ball either. So, it kind of, to me, it feels almost a little risky to go into these investigations, but you also feel like as an American you want them to.
Here's the thing. Until there are zip ties and handcuffs and perp walks and convictions, I will still say some justice has to be meted out. What they've done to this country, I believe unlawfully and certainly beyond the pale in terms of the mission of our government, is, to me, the biggest scandal that I've seen in our country's history, and we're only beginning to peel the onion now, thanks to the election in 2024. And I promise you this, there's a lot more where that came from. I've been in Washington an awful long time. We have barely scratched the surface. This is not even the end of year 1. Trust me, by the end of year 4 of this term, you will be surprised, and sadly so, perhaps even shocked, at what we saw happening over the last 4 years.
I agree.
Sobering, I know.
I know. Kaylee, last word to you.
Well, I think to Tommy's point about censorship, the only thing that I would say is you should take it as a compliment because it means that you're successful and that you're having an impact. I think of even the FBI launching an investigation into Turning Point USA or doing whatever it is they were doing. Well, why would they target TPUSA? Because they're successful and they were converting young adults to conservatism. And that became an issue for the left. So yes, censorship is obviously a problem, but it also means that you're doing something right.
Good point.
All right.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.